What the Tech is brought to you by Rocket Loans, part of the Quicken Loans family of companies. Offers personal loans from $2,000 to $35,000 by visiting rocketloans.com/whatthetech. That's rocketloans.com/whatthetech.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Major Jared, of course, I'm joined by my tag team partner, as always, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I'm all right.
A little rocky start today.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on here. Something's broken here. I'm having this weird reflection on my screen. I'm going to show you guys. If I take this off, you see this here? Like right on my stomach. Getting this light reflection from here. I've never seen that happen before.
That is kind of weird.
And nothing is out of place. And the lights are exactly the same. So I'm curious why that's happening. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me why and what I did and what I broke. But how you doing, Paul? How was your week?
How was my week?
Yeah.
Jeez. I can't. I'm having trouble remembering past this morning. I don't know. Probably not as eventful as yours. How was your trip?
Oh, it was awesome. Ireland is awesome.
Yeah.
Today, to celebrate, I'm having some Guinness that I brought over. Smuggled over. It's absolutely delicious. No, it was a great trip. We went to Dublin, and then we went to Glasgow. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Glasgow, where Paul McCartney got married in the castle. We went there for the day, and then I stayed in Monaghan, in like the town of Monaghan. It's like 8,000 people. And I absolutely loved it. It was all bars, and I pretty much drank and ate a lot. And then we went up to Belfast for a day trip, and then we came back down, and then here I am. I'm back in New York. Next thing I know. Going there is super easy. Coming back, it's a pain in the ass because it's a long flight.
But you got to do customs in Ireland, and that's awesome.
Oh, my God. That is a breeze, and Jess didn't believe me the entire time. She's like, no, we're going to have to go through customs because the last time she went to Ireland, you had to do customs on the American side also. Over there, super easy. Super easy. Just take that was it. It's like a domestic flight. You walk out of JFK, and it's super, super easy. The only thing, guys, the food's not that great.
I don't think it's fair to judge a country on 2 or 3 days of experience.
Based on my 2 or 3 days, I did not have the best. Like, you know what's great? The stews were phenomenal, like a lamb stew and like that kind of stuff. But like getting a steak, not the best.
Irish steak is world famous.
Yeah,
actually.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
I don't know. Then
Irish beef is a delicacy, actually. So I don't know. Like I said, you were only there for a little while. So honestly, one of the things that's really interesting in Ireland is that the food situation, in England too, the food situation has gone off the charts in recent years, right? There are like excellent restaurants of all kinds there,
Yeah.
But where you were, I mean, you were out in the hinterland. I mean, I'm sure
exactly
it's a slightly more traditional setting.
Well, I'll tell you, the food in Belfast was great.
Yeah.
Like I had a lot of fish there, and it was phenomenal. That was absolutely great. So it was a fun trip, and I'm glad to be back. And I have yet to adjust to the time zone, so I'm waking up very early every day, which is actually the advantage because I wake up like at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm like getting stuff done. So I kind of like that. I kind of like waking up like 2 hours early every day.
Yep. Oh, I lost your audio. Yeah, sorry. I can't hear you, but I don't know if it's just me or.
While Paul is waiting for my audio to come out, I want to talk about Rocket Loan with you guys because this is actually great. The holidays are over. A lot of us have bills. A lot of us have credit card bills from the holidays, or some of us just want to make a major purchase or buy some furniture for our new home or make updates to the existing home. Well, Rocket Loan, part of the Quick Loans family of companies, is offering loans from $2,000 to $35,000 by going to rocketloans.com/whatthetech. You could check the offers at any time without harming your credit score, which some guys don't do. every time you get into you try to process this and you go through your credit report, it puts a little ding on it, but they don't do that with Rocket Loan. With Rocket Loans, it's simple, it's fast, and the online process makes it super easy where you can combine your existing credit cards into one fixed monthly payment, no prepayment penalties and fixed rates. Rocket Loans can help you with all your New Year's resolutions by checking them out by going to rocketloans.com/whatthetech. That's rocketloans.com/whatthetech. All loans are made by Cross River Bank, member FDIC. Paul, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So everything's falling apart here already. A couple minutes in, but that's fine. That's fine. I do want to talk to you about the Samsung S10, but before we do that, because that's going to take a big chunk, I was finishing up the notes, and I saw your digital decluttering article on Thurrott Premium. Yep. And I want to talk to you about this because this is something that I've started doing, and it's not that easy. So I want to know what your process has been, and what do you exactly mean by digital decluttering?
Okay. You want to know right now?
Yeah. No. Let's go into it. I'm curious about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So digital decluttering actually could mean a lot of things. And so in this case, I'm just talking about photos. And so in many ways, this is really real world decluttering and putting it in digital. And so we have in the article that you're referencing, I have pictures of this, but we have boxes and boxes and boxes of paper-based photos, right? Because I'm old enough that when I kind of came of age in the 80s, when my dad gave me a camera one year, or like an SLR camera with different lenses, I was really into it. And I've always been into photography ever since. And, I would say through the very late 90s into 2000, 2001, we took pictures on film, and that's the way it was. And so, we used to put them into photo albums. And then at some point in the early 90s, we moved to Phoenix, and that 6 or 7 year period we're in Phoenix, we never, I don't know why, but we didn't really continue with the photo albums. So we have all these loose photos that are just in those little envelopes you get from the photo processing place that were never filed, And over the years, I'm sorry, I should say too, after that, we switched to digital cameras. In 2013, I switched to just using smartphone for photos after that. And so the digital photos, well, all of the photos I have, the digital photos especially, but the scanned photos I've done in the past, because, you do this from time to time, you scan photos in.
Did you do a lot of them, or were you just doing like bits and pieces?
My intention was always to do all of them. So what I have is like chunks of years where a lot of them are there. And then I have entire years where nothing is there. Because, you lose interest in it. It's a very tedious job to scan photos. The other thing is like, years and years ago when I again, would do this in different years, different times, whatever, I would scan in some batch of photos, whatever it was, and I didn't do anything to really tag them properly. So that the date that's associated with the photos is the date that they were scanned, not the date that they were taken, right? Which is another problem you have to kind of think about. So when we moved here to the new house, we brought with us all these paper photos that have been shipped around the country at various times. Since in 1993 we moved to Arizona, they were shipped out to Arizona. In 1999 we moved back, they were shipped back. We bought our second and third house in Massachusetts. The boxes of paper, photos went there, and now they're out here in Pennsylvania. And we've been here for almost a year and a half, I'd say, and they've just been kind of sitting in the basement. And we've had other priorities. I mean, we had a bunch of home renovation stuff to do last year, especially, but I've always intended to kind of get back to it. And, it's the middle of the winter. We're not really going outside a lot. And so I think this is the real reason these New Year's resolutions happen now. And I decided to take another crack at it.
So what's your process right now? Like, how are you getting the physical, I guess, media, right? The physical photos.
Yep.
And then what's your process? And are you doing, because Suncast did this a couple of years ago, and he was using Google Photos as the storage container for everything.
Yep. So my end game for the photos is to have them in 3 different locations. They're going to be in Google Photos. They're going to be in OneDrive, and they're also going to be on a NAS that we have here in the house. A couple of things have changed over the years. And so it's important for me to go, and I'm going to tag the old ones too. That's going to be tedious, but I'm going to go through Google Photos and find them and tag them correctly. I want to tag all the photos I've already uploaded and make sure they have the right dates at least, right? Because depending on how organized things were, I know the exact dates of photos. Like when I used to put them in albums, I was really good about that. I mean, I'm looking now, I have like these envelopes of like photos, and like this thing, what it says on it is May or June 1997. You know, so you kind
May
of, you
or
know,
June.
we're gonna have to you know, be vague on the date maybe, but that's fine. I just want them in the right year. Certainly the right month would be great. The right date would be perfect.
So
I'm not never gonna have the right time.
how are you scanning them?
Well, oh, sorry, right. So that's one of the things that's been changing. So at different times in my life, I've had different. I used to have something that could scan negatives. It was a super slow and tedious process, and that scanner is long gone. But I've been using flatbed scanners to scan photos. So if you think like a total, like a typical 4x6, like this photo here.
Yeah.
I'll
So you're
just pull
putting a
it out
whole bunch
randomly.
on one and then
It's like a
cropping 'em.
4x6 photo, right? So the image itself, like the photo itself, like when you look at it in real life, we're not talking about super high quality here for the most part. Some of them are actually pretty decent for sure. I mean, I did have an SLR camera. Um, some of them aren't, but you know, if you can scan it like a 600 DPI, I'm never going to blow it up to a poster. The idea is when you see it on your computer, it's at least as good as it is in real life, and you know that's fine. And so the physical act of scanning, giving the file names that make sense with the date and the place and the whatever the event is, in a folder that makes sense. You know, you develop a kind of a folder structure, year based, month, you know, not month based, but year based, event based, and so forth. You want to get them tagged correctly, but you know, you look at the. I mean, it's hard for me to explain this like with words, but you know, the word. I have this box over here. I've decided this time I'm gonna. I used to go through all the photo albums because it was really organized. I decided this time what I wanted to do was tackle the disorganized, loose photos, and it's, you know, a box. It's humongous, and it's
Yeah.
full of. It's like a decade worth of photos that are just like kind of willy nilly all over the place. And I took the time last weekend to kind of go through them. I organized them. You know, as far as I can tell, you know, by date and so forth. And I've started the process of scanning them, but it's tedious. And I have a box over here that has the scan photos in it. My intention is to destroy all of the originals when I'm done, and when they're safely up in the cloud.
You're gonna have like a little fire and just put everything in there.
No, I'm gonna put it in the trash. No, that's probably really dangerous actually, with all the chemicals and stuff.
Have everything just explode.
Yeah, but so okay, so a couple things. So I know for a lot of people, the notion that, well, there's a lot of things here. Like the notion of destroying the originals to some people is like the most horrific thing they've ever heard. But like I said, I've been carting this stuff around the country over 25 years. We never really look at them in the photo albums or certainly not in the envelopes.
Does.
Anyway,
Yeah, nobody does.
Nobody does. So you digitize them. You know, they show up on we have a smart display in the kitchen now. You know, we can do slideshows off Chromecast on our TV and so forth. But you know, that's how we would view these things. The flatbed scanner though is a slow process, right? So it's kind of small. So I can actually fit 3 photos stacked, one, you know, 1, 2, 3 on it. But if I do that, the scan will come out as a single image that I would have to crop.
Yeah, you have to do
So
it.
if I separate them, it comes out as different images, but then I can only fit 2 on at a time.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm going to do 2 at a time. And I've done, you know, I don't like the width of the photos is probably like this much, you know. It represents approximately 1/20th or something of what's in this box next to me. This box represents approximately 1/8 of what's in the cellar. So it's a daunting task. And I know that if I keep doing it this way, I'm going to do what I always do, which is I'm going to give up on it. And then some months or a year will go by and then I'll pick it up again. And so when I wrote about this morning, someone in the comments section said, you know, you should try, they have these bulk photo scanners that work sort of like, you ever see a money counter in a bank, you know, or in a movie about drug lords where they, you know, the money goes put kind of through, you know. I used to work in a bank, so I'm very familiar with these things. But, or if you think about how a printer works, when you have like a stack of paper at the top and you're printing and it's kind of coming out the bottom, what you can do with this thing is stack the photos on it, and then it shoots them out like 1 a second, and it scans them. And the device that the guy recommended had just been updated, so there's a new version. It scans at 1200 DPI, but it costs $600, you know? And so my initial reaction to this was, man, this would save a lot of time, but it's like $600. I don't know. And then you kind of sit there and you think about it a little bit and you're like, okay, well, actually, hold on a second here. How much is my time worth? And maybe more to the point, how long would it take? I mean, based on just what I just experienced, the small amount of photos, based on the huge amount that's sitting here on the floor, and how this is only, like I said, 1/8 of what's down in the cellar.
Yeah.
I kind of, you know, I'm like, I have to get one of these. And so I talked to Stephanie, my wife. And
do you know which model it is? Because I'm looking for one too.
yeah, it's, here, let me look it up. I ended up, so here's what I did. It's an Epson Fast Photo. The newest version, like I said, is 1200 DPI. It costs $600. It's a fast, I guess it's an FF680W.
Okay. Yeah,
However,
I found it.
The previous version of it is the one I bought, because the FF640, which is like last year's version, scans at 600 DPI, which I already know to be perfectly acceptable for these photos. You can buy on Amazon again, you can buy a certified refurbished version for $440. And so we ended up buying that. And I will have that tomorrow and we'll see how that goes. But I have high hopes now. It's like literally in the time since I wrote that article, which I probably published this morning at 7 o'clock in the morning or something, until now, like this story has changed completely. Like where this was not just a daunting task, it was literally something I was never going to finish. Right? If I'm going to want to be honest about it,
it's almost one, yeah. It really
a good
is
faith effort. Yeah, it's never going to happen.
You'll get a lot done, but it's almost impossible to go through it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Always be incomplete. There's just no way.
So, do you have a plan to doing it? Because I'm curious about this. Do you have like, I want to do this year to this year, and then I'm done for now?
Well, no, I want to do it all. So what I have is my photo collection, my personal photo collection that dates back to the early 1980s and goes through the late 90s. So it's not quite 20 years worth of photos. I don't know exactly how many photo albums I have left, because I have scanned some of them already. And I've tossed out some. Like whenever I did this last, that's when I started, like, I'm not saving these photo albums anymore. The goal here is to not have boxes and boxes of photos. So I have, like I said, probably 6 to 8 boxes full of photo albums. I will do them one at a time. And I'll just, I'll take all the photos out of an album. I'll stack them on top of this thing. I'll rip them through. And assuming that works, actually, this process could happen fairly quickly. Like, this isn't just something like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. If this thing works as good as it's supposed to, I could be done with this in a couple of months, and
that's great.
Or a month or something. It's amazing, because this is something that's been hanging over my head forever, So it's
and then you can get rid of the photos.
This could be life changing, and
yeah, but here's the difficulty about dumping those photos, right? Everything is on the cloud, and everything is on your information. It's on your cloud, so your kids, will never probably get access to that.
And there's no reason they can't have access to. I mean, I can give, my wife has access to all my photos already. I mean,
but we don't know, right? We don't know what'll happen. We don't know technology. So 4 decades from now, that's the hope.
My photos.
I want to see your photos, Paul.
No. Look, my kids right now, me and my wife right now, don't want all of these photos, right? My kids will have even less investment in it. Their kids will have even less. And so, maybe there are 3 or 4 photos that someone might want, pictures of me and my wife 50 or 100 years from now, maybe. But whatever. I have random old pictures of my grandparents when they were young. I have 2 or 3 of them, or 5 or 7, whatever the number is. I mean, I'm not invested in any kind of personal genealogical history thing. I mean, it's whatever, like, nobody cares. The truth is, I'm going to do all this work, and most of it is going to be who cares. Yeah,
most of it's going to be who cares. I'm curious how your progress goes. Now, a lot of people suggested also you could do a scanner app, and I believe Google had one on. There was an app that Google had. I've never used it, so I don't know.
I have. It's fine, but for that many photos, that's just really tedious.
Yeah.
What's the process? You're going to open up a photo album, take all the photos out. You're going to array them in a grid. You're going to
One
hold
by
the camera
one.
over each one, take a photo, and then I know it does auto cropping, blah blah blah, whatever. But look, I'm just trying to end the tedium. Somebody recommended a link. I think it was some tech blog thing, whatever it was. And the woman had sent in 3,000 photos to a service. 3,000 negatives
Oh,
to a
wow.
service, right? And they did, I think she said it was 1,200, maybe even 2,400 DPI. So they're high quality scans of the negatives. They were hand edited in some cases, right, to try
Wow.
to get out some of the obvious, pops and glitches and things. And that sounds wonderful, but as it turns out, it's like really expensive. I did the math on this. Like, I looked at the site and it cost 60 cents a negative to do what she did.
Oh boy.
3,000 times 60 cents is $1,800.
Yeah.
So yeah, is it worth it to me to spend the 440 or whatever it is after taxes to get this thing and then do the work myself
Yes.
in off times? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to spend? I would never send negatives, honestly, because when you talk about like how much garbage is out there, as far as the photos, I mean, at that point, if I'm spending, I'd want to go through them one by one and be like, okay, I want this one. And this
Unless
one.
you're
And
one of
then
those, that only takes that one photo,
Yeah, right. But I never really, did that. I mean, every event we ever had, driving cross country or on some big vacation as a kid or whatever it
Yeah.
was, I always took photos, and in my later teenage years, like my parents would have me take the photos of family events because I was good at it, and
Yeah.
so we went to California for 3 weeks in 1986 and I took the photos,
Yeah, listen, also it comes down to how much time you have and I have no problem, for some I know people that have sent their photos in. My mother-in-law did that. But it wasn't
Mhm.
3,000 photos, but she sent it with like let's say 1,500 photos. And for
Yeah,
her, and I was like, "Why don't you scan it?" She goes, "Andrew, I first of all, I don't know how. Second, I
right.
don't really have the time. I'm working like 10-hour days. I don't even enjoy doing it." Like she tried, she's
Yeah.
like, there's nothing
No,
enjoyable
listen,
about it. So for me to
if you
spend
have
$1,000, that's great.
if you just have a shoebox full of photos, send them to a service for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, you got to buy the scanner in the first place, right? There's the cost. You can add that into
That's
whatever
the
the
call.
cost
Yeah.
is. I bought this scanner years ago, and it's whatever, it's fine, it works fine. But um, like I said, I can only do 2 at a time, and so like I sit here and pop pop pop, brr, 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 pop pop pop, and and like you kind of do it, and it you develop a kind of a rhythm, but it trails off because I'm working for one thing. Like something will happen, and I have to pay attention, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, you've done like a couple hundred of photos or something, and you're like, hooray, because I probably have 800,000, or
Yeah.
whatever the number is. I can't even imagine.
I'm looking forward to hearing your progress. This reminds me of a conversation we had probably 7 years ago about the proper way to ID3 tag your MP3s. Do you remember when
Right.
you and I used to obsess over this, and now no one gives a shit about
Right.
tagging because
Well,
everything
yeah.
is
So
streamed?
yes, but to be fair, photos are a little different than music, right? So if you could have found you or I in the past and said, look, you're spending all this, you're re-encoding these things to MP3 for the third time. You're going up to a higher bit rate, maybe, or you're using a different program that works, but maybe you're going to AAC or whatever it is. And then you're like frigging around with the metadata to make sure everything's right, the album
Sure.
art's right, all that stupid stuff we had to do. If you had ever said to me at that time, you can do this, I mean, have fun, but you need to understand there are services coming and they're going to have 50 million songs. It's going to be $10 a month. And if you want to bring in your own music, you can, in the case of some of them. I would have been like, okay, I'm done doing this. Like, like the notion that was possible, was not clear at the time. And now it is, and it's awesome. So, but photos, look, the big chunk of time, like this box that's next to me, where these loose photos is a lost period of time in my life because, we got married in 1990. We moved to Phoenix in 93. We stopped organizing photos and albums. I don't know why. We continued taking pictures. And then our first son was born, our son was born. And then all of a sudden pictures were really important again. And we started paying more attention to it. And that decade roughly right there is lost. Right. And so we will come across photos, on the smart display, on slideshows, whatever it is. We're like, oh, look at that thing. Remember, it helps you cement memories because you see the thing. I've been seeing photos the past 3 days. I'm like, I don't even remember this. And I'm in the photo, or whatever. Or it's like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this now. and getting that chunk of my memory back or whatever, even if I had to go through and say, look, okay, 80% of these are garbage, but I want the other 20%, it would still be worth it, I think, because they represent real memories to me. Like, they're important to me. They're not necessarily important to some of them are important to my kids, some aren't. None of them will be important to their kids. You know what I mean? Like, basically.
But you know what? But here's the great thing, right? Like the Facebook memories and the Google memories. Like, I generally keep my photos on Google Photos, and I love seeing what I did last year and 3 years ago and 4. I mean that's really such a cool feature where I could look back and I could say, oh man, I don't remember that. And like you were saying when you were going through it. So now that you're archiving this, if you do it properly with dates and months and all that stuff, you can have all this tagged. And but the other thing is Google does a phenomenal job at face recognition. A little too good of a job.
That's right.
A little
so that smart display that I was talking about, which is it's not a Google made device, but it's Google powered device. You go in and you create an album where you say, I only want to see pictures that are of like in my case, it's the family members, me, my wife, our kids, and our pets. And that's it. That's what's in there. So what comes up on this thing, it's astonishing. I just saw, for example, this is literally true. It's one of those weird coincidences. There was a photo of me and my brother and sister and my mother standing in front of an Amish cart with a horse, right? Somewhere in Pennsylvania in 1981 or 2. I don't remember. And I don't remember this photo. I don't remember it. But it's one of those photos I obviously scanned at some point in my life, so it's in my collection. It's me as a kid, like I'm a teenager. So it did the facial recognition you're talking about, and it's coming up randomly on this thing, right? Like I literally just saw that this morning. I showed it to Stephanie. I'm like, I don't remember this. I remember we went through Amish country, like on the way home from DC one year, but I don't that photo. And now I live here. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a weird,
and now
it's kind
I'm
of
in
a weird
Amish
coincidence.
Country. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Basically, I'm right on the
I'm
edge
curious
of
to
it.
see about the progress of this. I really am, because I'm kind of into this stuff. I'm really big on archiving, especially like even like I have a difficult time letting go of things. I mean, we could talk about this forever, so I kind of want to move on. But I'm curious to see how the progress goes for this, guys. Listen, really appreciate you guys hanging out. Today was a rocky start, but I'm feeling it now. Paul got me excited with all this scanner talk.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
to be honest, I'm a little excited too, because like I said, when I wrote this thing this morning, I was like, I have a lot of work ahead of me, and I know I'm going to give up on this at some point, and I know I'm not going to really finish. I know I'm going to die, and I'm not going to finish this. And it's a lot of weight on you when and I want to downsize. I want to be more mobile. I want to be able to move to a different house later and not have to cart that stuff around with me. And since then, I don't have it. And who knows? Maybe it doesn't work great, but I think it's going to work great. I bought this thing thanks to a reader, and it's going to change this dramatically. And that's like huge. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. We got 71 people watching on YouTube. We got another 30 people on Twitch, and probably 40 or 50 on Periscope. This is amazing. I absolutely love you guys coming and watching us every single week. And we could do this because of your support on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/whatthetech, you can fund us there as little as $1 per episode. That we do. You get access to the bonus stuff. You help us continuing to grow the show. Paul and I have all these crazy ideas, like doing a live show. Paul and I, and this is crazy, in the years that we've done this, we have never done a show live together. Ever.
Is that true?
We have never done a What the Tech together. Now, I've produced Windows Weekly.
Yeah.
I've never been on Windows Weekly. And we've never done the show together. I've done a show with Mary Jo Foley together, like in my house, I think twice, but we have never, ever done a show. So I want to do that for 2019. That's part of the goal. We want to do a live show, but I don't want, like, I think it's cool. Paul's here and does it with me, but I want to kind of go do it at a place. I want it to be like a thing. Right. So I want to put that together, and I'm going to come up with like a campaign for Patreon to do it. So maybe we could do something cool with the audience. Obviously, we want to do that. Obviously, Mary Jo Foley could be involved. Brad can be involved. We could do some super show. I feel like that's when the tech podcast universe kind of explodes. If you add Leo to it, then it's over. No more podcasts. It's over. The whole
Did you
thing.
see the photo I
implodes.
posted of? I posted a photo of Leo that I had scanned.
I did, and I got jealous.
And
I
that
said,
was
"How
from
come?"
1997, I think.
I said, "How come you don't post photos of me?"
Oh, that's right. So, but the story behind that is, I distinctly remember and have told the story about the first time that I met Robert Scoble in person. I had known him through the Microsoft beta stuff at the time. Like we were all part of some Internet Explorer thing that was like a beta. I don't remember the name of it anymore. But anyway, I met him in person for the first time when Microsoft launched Internet Explorer 4. And like I said, I've told the story because he worked at a company that made network attached cameras at a time when that type of thing was just not common at all. And you can see from the photo the crazy setup. It's like a huge camera mounted on top of a thick laptop with all kinds of cables. And he was doing some kind of a live broadcasting because, he's Scoble, whatever. But and so I thought to myself, well, look at this loser. Like what this is just so stupid. Like I just thought it was really goofy and weird. And when I saw the photos again, I was like, oh, cool. And scan them in, whatever. And I'm looking at this picture and I'm like, that's Leo.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I didn't even know that I don't know that we met per se, like someone introduced us.
And you didn't know Leo at that point.
No. Yeah. And I said, I'd have to really think about this, but I want to say that Leo entered my consciousness or whatever when he was on MSNBC. And so Microsoft and NBC started that cable station, which was of interest to me because it was Microsoft, right? And they were going to get into content at the time. That lasted about 6 months. And they had a show on there about technology called The Site with Soledad O'Brien. And Leo was on that show, and he did it was a Max Headroom type character on the show.
And didn't it win an Emmy? It won an Emmy.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think it did.
I remember meeting. Anyway, I actually didn't know I didn't know him. Like he wasn't the point. Like I really liked Soledad O'Brien. I thought she was great. And then they did Tech TV. And that's when I connected with this guy, like who he is, what he looks like, and the way he is. And I thought, he like the relationship you have sort of virtually is like, I felt like I knew this guy.
Yeah. And
I used to leave the show on TV, even though I knew I was never going to learn anything from it, but there was something really engaging about him. And so I don't know what year that was, 2002, 2003. It was, a long time ago.
Listen, that's why Leo's doing what Leo's doing. I mean, all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is, like, the point is, though, in 22 years ago, he was there with me in a room, and he's in a photo I took, and I don't remember. I didn't know who he was. He was probably like a radio guy at the time or something.
Yeah. Before Tech TV. Yeah. Amazing. I think that's really cool.
I don't know. Yeah.
You should send it to him with like a little kiss on it with like lipstick.
Yeah. I assume it's made its way to him.
Guys, we do have a lot to talk about. I kind of want to go through this. Paul, I want to talk about the Samsung S10 because I do this to myself every year, right? And every year I do this to myself. I bought the S9 Plus. It's a great phone. Right now it's turned off somewhere in my house and I can't find it since Christmas.
Okay.
Since Christmas, it's been off somewhere, and I'm having a real difficult time finding this
thing. Maybe it's in your wall.
With the beep. The beep is gone, Paul.
You looked down in there with the flashlight and dropped it.
I'm telling you right now, people have been messaging me saying, Andrew, listen, bring the beep back. We want the beep back. So maybe I'll bring the beep back. I could turn on the beep, but I cannot turn it off if I turn it on. It's become like a trigger for people. So when every year, I'm a big Samsung fan. I mean, I like being in both ecosystems. I like using my iPhone, and I also like using my Samsung. And I equally dislike things on both of them, and I equally like things on both of them. I think I like Google Photos better than I like the Apple version of whatever their Photos app. I like iMessage way better than any kind of text messaging application or any standard text messaging any OEM is providing on the Android side, even Google. So there are pros and cons to both, and I think it's both have a lot of great things to them. Now I'm getting back into Android again. I'm like, the S10 Plus looks great. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get this phone, and then I'm going to regret it like I do every single year when I buy an Android phone because the camera is always crap compared to the iPhone.
So I might have good news for you there.
Okay, tell me.
There's I don't understand this exactly, but Samsung, I guess, is very common with the Korean companies, and I think with Chinese companies as well, but in Korea in particular, there's a kind of a familial thing going on with the company. Like there are family owners and people who are in positions of power that are all part of the same family or something. And one of the guys that's really high up in the company was, this might be apocryphal. I don't remember where I heard the story, but I guess he was shopping for phones somewhere in Europe and was looking at a Huawei phone and was asking the guy in the store, which one do you recommend? Oh no, he recommended an iPhone. And the guy said, why do you recommend that? And he said, because the camera, they really care about the camera quality, and that's really important to me. So he kind of went back and he said, we're fixing this, And so I actually think that the Samsung camera quality stuff is great, but supposedly in this generation that's coming this year, it's going to be incredible. So that's something that might put these phones over the top. They've been super close to best in class in all areas.
Very.
The screen quality, obviously, the build quality. It's
I'll tell you where they do better. They do better with manual mode. If I want to take a manual photo on my S9 Plus, it will be better than the iPhone, whatever the competing year.
Yeah, but nobody wants to.
I know that's the problem.
Take a photo,
So I want to go.
By the way,
sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm reviewing a Huawei right now, and the way that this thing works, you can turn on this mode where what it will do is optimize for whatever it thinks it's looking at. It uses AI. So if it's food, it will kind of do this Instagram looking, filter kind of effect, and it's often excellent. And if you don't want it, there's this little thing, you just turn it off. It's great. This is the single best camera I've ever had in a smartphone. It's incredible.
Really?
And it also has the kind of curved screen thing like Samsung. They totally ripped off the Samsung thing there. It has a notch, because it's, 2019 phone or whatever. But the new Samsung phones are going to have these punch holes for the camera. So in other words, instead of having a little notch coming off the top, it's going to be separated from the top. It's just going to be a hole in the display.
Yeah, so there's going to be 3 different models of this phone.
Yeah, right.
And one, the S10. So I kind of want to go through the things that we know about the Samsung Galaxy the S10 and what we have to look forward to for the S10 because I think there's a lot of misconceptions.
I don't know that we know that much. I mean, other than
so far,
it looks like.
I'm going to go down everything that we know. There's 3 different versions. One is the S10, obviously, and that has the punch hole that you're talking about. It's one tiny
circular.
It's a little
circular
one.
Hole.
The S10 Plus has a dual front-facing camera, so it's an oval punch. The
kind of like the way the shape of the iPhone 7 Plus camera. It's kind of like the bender's eye,
Yeah, bender's eye. It's actually it is bender's eye. The display looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It's edge to edge, very tiny,
like literally
thin bezel.
bezel-less. Yeah.
Very thin bezel.
But
they're calling it the Infinity O display. That's what they're calling it. There's 3 different versions varying from a 5.8-inch display to a 6.4-inch display. This is actually, I'm curious what the fate of the Note lineup, the Samsung Note lineup will be, because these are getting into Note size categories. And really, if you want the total package, this is the flagship. This is the one that you want. I know there is a very specific group of people that love the stylus. I don't know if you need a stylus in 2019.
Well, I like that they do it. I don't need it for sure. The screen is usually slightly bigger or is bigger. But yeah, the way it's kind of gone the past couple of years is you basically get the S, whatever it is that year, bigger screen with a stylus. I mean, that's pretty much what you're looking at. I don't think the camera tech changed at all, basically, between the S9 and the the Note 9. So I don't know if they changed that or not, but yeah, I think this this release is going to be interesting for a number of reasons, right? So the triple camera thing I was talking about, the display with the hole, and then the software too, right? Remember at their developer show in November, they talked about this new UI that they're coming out with, which they've been beta testing.
It's very pretty.
And I think if you have an S8 or newer or an S9 or newer or a Note, whatever, or newer, you can test this thing now, but it looks really clean and nice. And this has always been one of the big digs with Samsung. But to bring this like down to earth, you got to remember like nothing is perfect, right? And so however excited you might be about the camera or the screen or whatever it is, it's a Samsung phone, right? So you're going to have double apps. You're going to have all the weird, that weird stuff. You're going to have the Bixby button on the side and the inability to replace it with a thing you really want. Like there is, it's Samsung, right? So you still have the kind of negative aspects of Samsung, just like you have the negative aspects of Apple or the negative aspects of Google or whatever phone you choose.
So Samsung is going with a 3-camera setup in the back.
Yep.
I'm very curious as to what they're going to do there.
Well, the Huawei I keep bragging about also has a triple camera system, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing.
What is it? One is a macro, one is a wide, and one is just a normal one. Okay.
Yeah.
And then does it combine the image? Does it do that image combo thing?
It depends on what it's doing. And that's part of what the AI is. And so, for example, if I bring this thing up and I look at something, some small, like I want to take a picture of the tip of a lightning cable. If I bring this thing right up to it and, like it's an inch away from it, it will go into macro mode automatically. And in that case, it's probably just using that one, the macro lens. But in other modes, depending on what you're doing, it will do that stuff that other companies are doing with dual cameras, where it can use one to, for depth perception or whatever, and you can get the changeable background stuff and all that. So there's all kinds of capabilities that you get. I don't know anything. I haven't looked into it. It has zoom modes like 1, 2, 3, whatever. I don't believe those are optical zoom. I mean, I think that's another area where cameras could really improve in phones.
Yeah, I forgot who it was. I was reading that they're going to be putting out. Oh God, I wish I was just talking about this. There's a potential 10x optical zoom that it's a new sensor that I forgot which company is going to put it out, but it potentially could do a 10x optical, which is amazing if it can.
Yeah, that would, I think 10x optical zoom in a camera would be game changing, right? I'm sure you could today buy an external lens that would add some form of optical zoom if you wanted it. And that's fine. I mean, it's still better than carrying a phone and a camera, but it's a thing you have to kind of manage and deal with and screw around with. Like, obviously what you want to do is pick the thing up and like zoom and have it just zoom, and have it actually work. That would be amazing.
So the big thing here is that, so the announcement's going to be on February 20th. So about a month from now. And we are also going to see their foldable tablet and phone during this announcement.
Is that true?
That is what I read on multiple sources.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I assume I'm if I were to place a bet on this, I assume that we're going to see it. And according to the reports, it's a working phone. It's a complete phone. So we've seen actually, is it Huawei? No. It's Xiaomi.
Xiaomi
has one, and it's
scary
how impressive it is.
Huawei is announcing one at Mobile World Congress.
Yeah. So the Xiaomi one is very interesting because it actually it works. Like this is like a real thing.
I think it's going to be a couple of years on that. Remember how curved displays happened? Samsung came out with I don't know if it was the S6 or something.
Yeah,
and
the S6 Edge or S7 Edge.
Remember that it was curved on one edge, right? I think it was on the right side. And the idea was they were like, okay, we did this thing where we curved the edge, but why did we do this? And so there was kind of a goofy edge UI. And then the next year they made a version that was curved on both edges. And now that just becomes the way that it kind of evolves over time. I think that the folding thing is going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be super excellent the first, iteration.
Well, it looks like the first iteration, they're not flat. It's kind of bent.
Yeah.
From what I've seen from a couple of the makers, they're all a little warped. And I guess maybe, that's just a nature of this foldable display. But I think for a tablet, this is something that's very interesting. To have the ability to take your tablet, fold it, and make that your phone. I don't know.
Yeah, so I would word that slightly differently. Okay. I think of it more as you have a phone because that's going to be and then you will open it up to do things on a bigger screen sometimes, whatever it is, web browsing, watching a movie. It would be good for FaceTime type, video chat, whatever. But yeah, this has the potential to fulfill a need, which is interesting because today, like I always talk about this, the right tool for the job thing. I have no problem bringing a phone, a small tablet, and a really thin and light Ultrabook on a trip. Even though I could watch movies on my laptop, I could read books on my phone. Why bring
Yeah.
the tablet? I just find it more comfortable, you know? And so to have one device that could actually do the work of two, that was the original vision for the iPad in some ways, and it kind of didn't really work out. It just added a device. It's exciting if that could work, you know. And
Well, I
so
want I want to kind of touch on this a little bit because we talk about innovation and we're kind of in this slow growth phase right now, which not we spoke about yet last week about how Apple's kind of slowing down and same thing with Samsung and all the manufacturers because that's just
yeah. Uh-oh, I lost your audio again. Sorry.
there we go. Hello, there we go. So
Yeah.
this is it's so hot in here that the audio node that we have has totally overheated. And it's just in a constant loop of turning off. And there's nothing I can do because the window's open, the door's open, and the fan is running. And the studio's at 84 degrees right now. So I don't know what's going on here, but I definitely need to put that air conditioner in, the silent one. So we're kind of in this phase, in this era where, this could be a big thing, right? And it depends on who the person is. Like, I know that Apple sales have slowed down, including their iPad sales, until they drop the price on them. If Apple's first to market, right, with this, as far as a top contender in the tablet market goes,
Well, they won't be.
They won't be.
But,
they won't be. But either
yeah.
way, forget it. You know what? Let me.
Yeah,
They don't even have to be first. If Apple adopts this in the iPads and says, "Look, it's a foldable iPad. You know what? We're putting a radio in this thing, and you fold it up, and you could have this as your phone. Yeah, it's not as nice as the iPhone, but it's a mobile device."
So I am with you 100% on this because I actually I started writing an article the other day. I never finished it, and maybe I still will, but let's see, it's called "Looking Forward to Apple's Foldable iPhone." And the premise of the story is literally what you just said. Like, they're not going to be first to market. There's no doubt about it. So this year we'll see Samsung and Xiaomi and Huawei and probably others we don't know about will come out with their first iterations. And then next year there'll be a second iteration. And maybe the year after that, Apple comes out with one. But, they do have a way of kind of nailing it on the first try where other companies don't, and kind of perfecting things that other companies had already released. And for me personally, the reason that that's interesting is because I buy a lot of content from Apple. So a lot of the movies that I want to watch, like when I go on a trip and I'm going to watch a movie on a device, it's in iTunes, and and I watch it on an iPad, so that's no problem. But I mean, that's the type of thing when you think about Apple's basic strategy of lock-in, they want people to stay in their ecosystem. That's a great way to do it. It's all the content you already own on a bigger screen. That's not a second device. It's not a bad selling point. And they, like you said, they're the type of company that would get this right, and I think they are going to get it right.
Well, they're going to have to do something right. My opinion, I don't think incorporating it in the iPad will be the thing that people go, "Oh my God, this is it." I think incorporating it in a watch will be the thing. And I've spoken about this for a while because I think the Apple Watch was the first hit to a lot of people that Apple's not this magic company. A lot of people were under the impression that Apple could do it. And everybody, I'm telling you, normal people, I'm not talking about, us that we're talking about, because we know the technology that's out there, especially when it comes to displays and phones and things like that. People thought we're going to get this curved bracelet that's a display.
And a lot of
and instead you got a tiny screen that's on your hand
on a fairly big device. Honestly, I mean,
a fairly big device. So
no, for what it is, right? I mean, well, like compared to this little guy, I mean,
yeah. So I think this could be a big change, and I'm anticipating by the end of the year, this is going to be the technology of the year when it comes to phones and consumer products.
Yeah, it has potential. I mean, and it's nice for the industry because this might be their obviously phones have always had multi-touch, but when multi-touch came to computers with Windows 8, for example, it was it was a bump, right? It was a new capability, and this might be like that for phones, phone/tablets, whatever you want to call this thing. I mean, because it's been kind of the same for a while, and it's going to be kind of the same for a while. And yeah, we're going to get rid of notches eventually. We're going to have in-display cameras and components and stuff, um, but you can see that it's easy to see it's coming. Like we know that's coming. Like so, like what's the next big thing? And it's possible, you know,
It's
that,
possible
that folding displays.
I'm curious how this could be incorporated in a PC, in the laptop.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to see these kinds of things on PCs as well. I mean, Microsoft has patents, and we know that their partners are working on foldable and 2 display devices. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know. You know, it's tough on the PC because the PC doesn't have a good kind of content consumption ecosystem, right? I mean, it's not completely non-existent, but it's not the same as on mobile, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like when you think about a computer that can fold back and you can watch a movie like with the thing in kind of a tent mode, right, or as a tablet, that should be transformative in some ways, right? You're taking a typical laptop and you're giving it new functionality. It is a 2-in-1 or a 4-in-1, whatever you want to call it, device. But do a lot of people use that to read books or watch movies? Probably not, not compared to mobile devices. So in some ways that never materialized as a major thing. I think people who buy those devices buy them because they like the possibility that they might be able to write on it, but then they never do, for the most part.
Very interesting. So do you have time or you got a meeting?
I have a meeting. I'm sorry.
You have a meeting.
Actually, they have not pinged me yet, but I am.
I'm sure they will.
That.
So let's wrap it up. Next week, Tuesday's back, right? We'll be back to Tuesday?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this week was my fault because I was traveling and I was so jet lagged when I got back.
So I never told you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
On Tuesday at 1, I actually remembered. For some reason, I always think it's at 2. I grabbed a couple of drinks. I closed the door to my office. I turned on the Xbox and I said, if I don't hear from Andrew, I'm just going to play video games for the next hour. Because I knew you had come back from your trip and I figured you were exhausted. And, I didn't hear from you. So I was like, it's fine. I will do some Thursday.
I landed at 1:40. So by the time I got back.
Oh, you actually came home that day.
I came home that day. I came home on
Tuesday.
I
didn't even know that. I'm sorry. I should have remembered that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I came home that day. And I'll give a little input I'll do a little recording afterwards for the Patreon stuff. But we're taking off and the pilot goes, hey, listen, a couple emergency lights came on. We have to go back. We can't take off. And he starts going back and he comes back on. He's like, yeah, I called him. The mechanic said it's fine. Just ignore it. and I'm thinking to myself, what were the lights? What are they for?
Why would you tell?
Is it for a smoke detector? Because that could happen, right? A smoke detector light, and that's fine. You could take off. But is it a sensor for the, for the fuselage?
No.
I know.
They would never.
I know, but it was a good trip. Now the internet is terrible on those flights.
Yeah, but it worked, right?
It was it worked, and it was in the Atlantic because it uses Virgin. It uses the Virgin whatever, but it's so expensive. It's $40 US for 200 megs of bandwidth of traffic.
Oh, that's horrific.
So I literally ran out, and I was being careful what I was opening. I ran out from just doing emails, messages, and a couple tweets. Within 45 minutes, I was done.
I've never used it across the Atlantic. I just know they have it.
But it's nothing like JetBlue, I'll tell you. JetBlue's very good with their internet.
Well, of course.
I don't know if they're the best. I don't know, but it's crazy fast.
I think they're the best, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was a nice trip. All right, you go, guys. Thank you. I'll see you. I'll message you later, guys. If you're watching this, stay tuned. I'm gonna hang out with you guys for a little bit, and I'm gonna talk about my tech wants for this year. And I kind of want to. I know the chat is here, and it's a very active chat, and I want to get your opinion on a couple things, and I want to know what you guys are looking forward to this year because, it's interesting. For all the technology that we talk about, I really would like a good printer, and that's something that's overlooked. I keep buying these crappy printers and I throw them out when I run out of the ink, essentially, because it doesn't even cost. It's not even worth, constantly buying the ink for them, because if it's not great, it's not great. So every couple of years, I'm just swapping these things out. But I kind of want a good printer. I kind of want a couple of good stuff. So I want to talk to you guys about this. And somebody had asked to see the studio, and I think I'll take the camera and I'll flip it around so you guys can see the studio setup for a lot of people that haven't seen it. Guys, if you want access to this stuff and a whole lot more, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. That's patreon.com/whatthetech. You can fund us there as little as $1 per episode. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can hit the dollar button and show your support for What the Tech by being a super chatter or super user or whatever they call it. You could hit that dollar button, and then you could hit the super chat button, and then you could fund us, which is always appreciated. That's it for this week. Subscribe to us. We're everywhere podcasts are available, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.